Welcome to On the Corner of Main Street, presented by Plaza Hotel and Casino in downtown Las Vegas. Here is Plaza CEO Jonathan Jossel, Gary Vickery, and I'm your host, Lisa Melmed. Welcome to On the Corner of Main Street. Hello, Jonathan.
Good to be back.
How are you? What are you eating?
Very interesting. Who chocolate chunks. Very healthy. Or hunks. Hunks, yeah.
Who
Anyway,
hunks?
whatever. I don't know. They're very good.
Nice. Enjoy.
Good to be back with you guys. Hi, Rich.
So good. It is sports season. I guess it's always
upon
sports
us.
season.
Yep. I can't wait. As we'll talk about, I'm sure. But it was the beginning of the end it was the beginning of like something was really wrong in 2020 when they canceled March Madness.
Oh, yes.
And so now I think it's a sign that we're getting back. I think it's going to be packed. First full year without restrictions at Circus across the street. We're doing our biggest event we've ever done with giant new screens in our showroom, and we're seeing great attendance for that. So I think it's going to be very, very exciting. And sports are taking over. We almost talked about that. We had too many sports guests on our podcast going back a few months ago, but
Send us feedback. What do you think? Too many sports? Not enough sports? What would you like to hear?
they are very relevant at this point.
Speaking of sports, our guest today is very timely. He knows a lot about the subject, so let's start with him. Today we are joined by the president of sports betting for IGT and previous On the Corner of Main Street podcast guest, Joe Asher. Welcome back to On the Corner of Main Street.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Welcome back, Joe. And in following on with the introduction, a very good friend, someone who's helped us a lot over the years, and a number one customer of Oscar's Dinner Series in the history of the world. He's been to almost every single one. And he's the only person who I can say that about.
Wow.
Yeah, I think I've been to every one when I've been in town.
Yeah, and you've heard the same story probably a dozen times. Everyone ends with Finney.
Yeah, but
Finney-
it's, you know,
Finney on
it's
stage taking
about the
fifth.
delivery.
I told Oscar, he said he's doing the next one's about Tony the Anspilatro, which explains the statue that we have here. And so Oscar was telling me we're going to do it, and I got into the subject, and I said, yeah, but does it end with Finney on the stage?
I like the new menus you have for the dinner series as well.
That was Joe's idea. Joe's
really?
idea was to put the subject on the menu and the edition that we're doing so they become like collector's items.
Nice. Thank you.
See what I mean? He helps us out.
Thank you for everything.
Well, there you go. I mean, it's like my one small contribution to downtown Las
Well,
Vegas.
actually, let's take that back. I don't know if you noticed, but ever since you left William Hill, we have a brand new book, and you never did that for us. Have you seen how good that book looks?
Well, there's been brand new books going back to 2008.
Yeah, that's
You remember?
true. That's true. By way of introduction, Joe's been at the sports book at the Plaza since 2008 in various different forms. But the new book does look nice. Did you have a chance to see it?
Fantastic.
Some nice couches.
Yeah,
Comfy
it's
seating.
very modern.
Yeah, we got rid of the horse betting. Which
Why is that? Why is that?
Well,
Is this the time
it's
to
not a
talk about
huge
it?
amount of business, and the crowd that comes to it isn't necessarily what you want every single day. But I don't know, Joe, is there a bigger reason? It seems to be a trend taking over the town, getting rid of horse corrals.
We have people asking on social media where's the sports betting?
The economics around pari-mutuel horse racing in Nevada are really, really tough because of the cost structure that's mandated by regulation. And then, of course, the broader factors facing the horse racing industry of, declining interest and, horse players getting older. And, I can't tell you how many times over the years, we had one of our good horse racing players, not specific to the Plaza, but, he'd die and we'd have a little, in memory of in the betting carol in his honor. And
Yeah.
so, when you've got to keep your customers alive and solvent, it's a tough business model.
I will say, I go to South Point, I go to Wynn. They have great horse betting stations, and they do it, but it does seem to be a trend dying. Look across the street, there's the biggest sports book. They don't have any horse action there. Daily horse action. You still have the big races, right?
Yeah, no, look, the thing with the horse racing is that, there's 5 days a year that are, pretty good. Kentucky Derby and then the Preakness, and if you've got the Triple Crown on the line, the Belmont, and then Breeders' Cup is 2 days for hardcore racing fans, maybe 1 day for the general public. But those 5 days are pretty good.
Right.
The issue is, what do you do about the other 360?
Right. Yeah. And so you're assuming that. So we made the decision with Caesars / William Hill to get rid of them as part of the remodel in there, and we've really been paying attention to cleaning up the book and getting it, well maintained. I think there was part of the transition was new management, new people, and some of the same people, but just a lot more on their plate. So getting them to focus on the plaza, and we're very happy with how it's going now. It's definitely upped its game. It looks great, and it's being well run. So we're very excited about that.
Yeah,
but not that you care. That's your old
Well, I
life.
do
Yeah.
care. I mean, I had dinner with Dave Grohlman last night. Dave
Oh,
Grohlman,
did he tell you that I drive him
Dave
crazy?
Snock, they both do a great job. Those are two guys who work now for Caesars.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, but switching back to Joe.
Last time we spoke, you were the CEO of William Hill.
Hold on. Last time we spoke, he came here very proudly with a ticket that says
Yes.
Joe Biden will be the next president.
It was March 6, 2020, last we spoke. And you
And
had a ticket, a handwritten ticket from the UK.
Corals.
Indeed, and I still have it, and I just put it in with my passport.
You haven't cashed it?
I haven't cashed it.
What?
I haven't been over to London since the pandemic.
Is it
I
5 to 1? I have a photo of it.
That is
Indeed.
5 to 1, £500 to win £2,500.
Right. So I know it well.
I'm going there in
So-
3 weeks. If you give it to me, I'll take commission.
Well, you know what? So a number of friends.
Is that legal?
A number of friends have offered to cash the ticket for me, and I've said no because I want to go and get the cash myself.
As you should.
So I'm going over in a couple of weeks, and I'm going to go into a Coral betting shop, and get handed my £3,000, which will be great. I showed the ticket to Joe Biden.
Really?
After I bought it, yeah. I had one of the first really big fundraisers of the Biden for President campaign was in Las Vegas, and it was shortly after I had made the bet, and I showed him the ticket. So I don't know if that was good luck or not, but
probably
he
inspired
won and I won, so that's okay.
Very good.
Do these never expire, these tickets?
I think maybe after 7 years or so, they might expire. But as a general practice, I know the William Hill U.S. policy was always, even if it expired, we'd still cash it because, you don't want to be known as the bookmaker who doesn't pay. I assume it's the same betting practice or, cashing practices in London. But
It's sort of similar to like table games chips, though. Like if you bring in a table games chip, no matter how late it is, we'll do that. However, if you expire that chip, you have to give, I believe it's 6 months notice, and then you no longer can accept those chips after those 6 months. So that's, but you can mail in the chips, you can mail in the tickets. If they put out a notice that said you have to cash a ticket within 3 years or else it doesn't get paid, you could mail that ticket to them and they would send you a check.
I mean,
You wouldn't go to the bookie and get the cash in your hand the way you're describing your experience, but
I'd probably buy a plane ticket to go. And
it costs more on the plane ticket.
but it's the joy of getting the money.
Well bet. So that
I should have gotten a bigger price. He was like 8 to 1 the day before I showed up.
Look at the
in
bookmaker
London to
complaining
bet.
about the price he got.
And but then like this poll came out showing him at the top of the field right after he got into the race, and so they lowered the price down to 5 to 1. So I bet it was a terrible price because then after he got beat in Iowa and New Hampshire,
he wasn't looking.
he
so
was
good.
like 20 to 1.
Yeah.
Right. So yes, I'm glad to get my 5 to 1 for sure.
Some might say not a smart bookmaker.
But I would have been happier with 20 to 1.
Yeah, of course. Well, I'm glad you won.
me too.
Thank you.
Well, I'm glad you won your money. This is not a political endorsement.
Yeah, it's okay.
I know you
It's
are,
okay.
but this is not a political endorsement.
So it was March 6, 2020, last time we spoke before the pandemic was hit or was truly here in Las Vegas. We were all happy-go-lucky, betting on presidents.
Sort of shaking hands, just beginning to get worried about what was about to come.
What have you been up to since then?
You were still the CEO of William Hill, right?
I was.
Did you know then that you were sort of maybe not going to be the CEO?
Well, no. I don't even think the Caesars deal had been.
That's right. Caesars didn't close until...
It didn't close until April of 21, but it hadn't even been done in March of 2020. So that was 2 years ago, and a million miles ago, I suppose. When you consider all that's happened. Generally with the pandemic, and of course, Caesars then buying William Hill and everything that followed from that.
At that point, you were still the CEO of William Hill. You were running the business as if you'd planned to be there for a very long time. At what point did Caesars approach you and say, "We want to buy out William Hill"? When was that then?
Well, look, I think you always, in whatever job you have, you should always go into it with the attitude that you're going to be doing it, forever, because otherwise, kind of what's the point, right?
Okay. By the way, not many young people think like that anymore, but that's great. I agree with you.
That's really not what I thought you were going to say.
No, I think you should, because you're in that job, you're getting paid to do it, and it deserves your utmost effort and attention. No, look, I think it would have been sometime later in 2020 when Caesars approached the William Hill board. And ultimately that led to the board supporting a bid that Caesars made to buy the whole company. And like I said earlier, that deal closed in April of 2021. So coming up on a year now.
Wow.
How did that feel for you? As not William Hill, but Brandywine was your baby. You then sell that to William Hill. In all your hard work and the team you had around you, but the hard work of that group was now being taken by somebody else. How did you feel? Were you excited? Were you sad? Were you ready for a new opportunity?
Yes. I mean, all the above.
Of them?
Yeah, all the above. I mean, great pride. I mean, look, William Hill paid about $50 million for the 3 U.S. businesses back in 2012. And,
$50 million.
50.
Okay.
For the 3, it was Brandywine, Calneva, and American Wagering, or the old Leroy's business.
Was that more or less? Why did you? Is that?
I was just clarifying because he's about to tell you what they sold it to Caesars for, and it's a big number.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, the U.S. There was the U.S. business as well as the the European business. So there was no exact pricing of each one, I suppose. But broadly speaking, I think the William Hill U.S. business is probably approaching about $2 billion in value at when it was sold to Caesars 9 years later.
So $2 billion.
50 million to $2 billion. So it was the business had a great run, and so there's a lot of pride in that. And yet the day when it came to start packing up the office and leaving, that was a bittersweet sort of thing. And the people. I mean, over the years, we built a great team at William Hill. Like I just talked about, Dave Grohlman and Dave Snock, but a lot of people who I was personally very close with. Dan Shapiro, and of course, Nick Bogdanovich and I had an amazing run. And some people, Mark McMillan, we always called him McMillions, who did a phenomenal job as our CFO. And the digital team, who's they're still there for Caesars, Ken Fuchs and Sharon Otterman, and Martin Logan, who's the CTO, just fantastic. So over the years we had built up just a tremendous team, and so they made my job really easy. So it was a little bit sort of sad to break up the band,
right.
And I still talk to them. I talked to our general counsel yesterday, Sylvia Debonique, who is our head of HR. I'm still in touch with all these people on a regular basis. But it's I do miss working with them.
Any regrets?
No.
Anything so Caesars bought the whole thing and they sold the European arm, right?
They're in the process of selling it. Yeah, I don't think it's closed yet. It's coming up soon though. They're selling it to 888.
Okay. Anything that they've done in the 12 months or 10 months that it's been that you think that's a good move, not a good move, or do you not really care or have an observation on that?
Well, I follow it pretty closely. Look, I think the back when I was growing up, Caesars was such a sports brand, a sports presence, right? You think of all the great boxing matches live from Caesar's Palace, Ali and Foreman and Frazier in that sort of epic era of the heavyweights, and Evel Knievel jumping over the buses or the fountains and everything, at Caesar's Palace. But it kind of had sort of left behind that sports betting piece of it over the years. In fact, I think the first professional hockey game in Las Vegas was outside at Caesar's Palace. I forget the teams, but I'm pretty sure it was at Caesars. But anyway, it had kind of left behind, I suppose, that sports betting heritage. But now, of course, they've come full back to it in a big way, and I never imagined you'd see, Peyton Manning and Eli Manning and Archie Manning, coupled with Halle Berry and J.B. Smoove doing all these, commercials.
I was in New York 2 weeks ago. Caesars is on every subway digital board. Not underground, like overground. When you're walking down the street, every digital board is Caesars Sportsbook, and is that J.B. Smoove, the actor that they have?
He's
the gladiator guy. He's dressed up as Caesar,
yeah. And
every single street corner is Caesar's book in New York. It's unbelievable.
Well, they've obviously made a big push in New York. Early days, they're number one in the market in New York, and it's such a huge market, obviously, for sports betting, just given the population density and the wealth that you have in New York. So it's been fun to see, to see that, and to see the former William Hill team doing all of that. And so I still follow it closely, but I also follow the industry more broadly, pretty closely. At IGT now, our one of our biggest customers is FanDuel, so I pay attention to their business.
Yesterday, Caesars had their conference call, and then a few days ago, DraftKings did theirs, and they all announced basically big losses, and they all say, well, we're about to get to profitability, but do you think that is a realistic thing, and when does that happen? And is everybody panicking now? Is this a good time to be buying these stocks? I mean, not that you can give stock tips, but the idea that they're all now starting to realize that it isn't this trees don't go to the sky, right?
One of my favorite sayings: "Trees don't go to the sky."
You taught it to me. I had to use it back to you.
I think one of the things that's probably been underreported is just the different positions the various players in the market are in. Caesars, my own personal view, it really doesn't matter if they ever make money on sports betting. They have a nationwide network of casinos. And through the marketing spend to establish the Caesars Sports brand and the commercials I just talked about, they're introducing hundreds of thousands of people, and over time millions of people, into the broader Caesars ecosystem. Right? Those people are going to go to Caesars casinos. They're going to stay in their hotels. They're going to eat in their restaurants, go to their shows, and they're going to have them as customers for the next 30 years. Right? So they're in. When you look at it through that prism. You can see that sports betting is the single greatest customer acquisition tool in the history of the U.S. casino business, right? Just think of all the people who Caesars wasn't relevant to before, who are now, going to go to their properties, be they in, Atlantic City or Las Vegas or all the regional markets. FanDuel is part of Flutter, which is an international sports betting and gaming business, and so they've got this incredible cash flow from across the world, as well as operating knowledge. DraftKings, in a very different position, is essentially a pure play on the U.S. online sports betting business, and so
fantasy,
and fantasy, but. I've always viewed fantasy as a form of sports betting, right? I mean, I always thought it should have been called daily fantasy sports betting. So I've always viewed that as really a sports betting business,
right?
And then you've got a bunch of other MGM. Right? I'm fascinated to see how that all plays out. What happens with the joint venture that they have with Entain and the 50/50. And what happens with a bunch of the other people in the market. I think it's fascinating.
And Wynn's sort of pulling back on it.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's when you've got your competitors spending $1 billion, it's hard to make a lot of traction if you're spending $100 or $200 million, right? And so I can certainly understand why Wynn backed off on the spend. What each company does to get to profitability, however you want to measure profitability. Because again, I think if you're a casino operator, you're looking at this holistically as opposed to being solely focused on sports betting as a discrete business.
Yeah. So okay, go on, Lisa. Get back to what we were talking about. Let's go back. So so what happens here?
Now you're working at IGT Sports.
What happened in between leaving William Hill and there? I know you went to Del Mar personally, but you had some good family time. You took some time off.
That was the best. Look, when I decided that I wanted to leave when the deal closed, I was then very certain that it had to be that day. You don't want to stick around for 2 weeks or a month, and it's just kind of weird. So, packed up the office and left, and then just kind of hung around town until the kids got out of school. And then, went to Del Mar for the summer. And, for folks who don't know, Del Mar is a small beach town north of San Diego and in California.
And one of the most famous racetracks.
It's got one of the most famous racetracks in the U.S., and it's somewhere where I go every summer.
What is the most famous racetrack in the U.S.? Churchill Downs?
Churchill Downs, because of the Kentucky Derby. Saratoga, which is, the great meet in upstate New York. I went there in August for the first time in like 15 years, I think. But anyway, so I went to Del Mar. I go every summer, and it was great going this past summer because I had nothing to do, right? No emails, no phone calls, just pure enjoyment. Read a whole bunch of books and hung out with the family. Went to the races.
Amazing.
Went to the donut shop. It was great. What's not to like? Anyway, so then I come back to town, and one of the calls right after the deal closed, I did a video call with a fellow named Enrico Drago, who's now my boss at IGT, and I'd gotten to know Enrico because William Hill and IGT partnered to win the sports betting business in Rhode Island, to win the contract from the lottery in Rhode Island. And so I had gotten to know Enrico through that process and was always very friendly with him. And
for those that don't know, including Lisa, I'm sure, what and you, Rich, what is IGT? And we all know it as Wheel of Fortune Megabucks slots. Explain what IGT actually is.
It stands for International Game Technology, and as Jonathan referenced, it's one of the major slot machine manufacturers. I think the history of the company goes back to the 60s, and a fellow named Cy Red, but it had a very big Nevada presence. And over the years, it's merged with others, including a company called G-Tech, and then G-Tech was the acquirer, but took the IGT name. Big lottery business, provides lotteries to various states and
not in America.
In the U.S.
Not in Nevada, sorry.
Not in Nevada.
Because there's
not in Nevada. There's no lottery in Nevada. But elsewhere in the U.S. and internationally. And there's also a smaller sports betting business, which is hardware and software that is provided to casinos so they can run their own sports book.
Don't they pretty much own all the patents to video poker?
Video poker is one of the big IGT.
Did they bought it from
games.
Ernie Moody, or do they give him royalties from they make the games for him and then give him royalties?
Yeah, I think there's sort of a license arrangement with Ernie Moody, but yeah, video poker is.
By the way, is he still alive?
I think so. Sure.
We should have him on the podcast. Ernie Moody's the creator of video poker, and the action poker games that go around it. It's pretty amazing.
All right.
He was big into horses for a while too. He had a real top horse called Rock Hard 10. A bunch of other horses. I don't know how many others he's got. But anyway.
So they call you.
IGT. Yeah, so I have this call with Enrico right after I left William Hill. And it was, nice working with you. It'd be great to do something together down the road kind of thing. And then I talked to him over the summer, and he asked if I'd be interested in doing some consulting around this sports betting business that they have, and basically, my attitude over the summer was listen to everything, commit to nothing, and so I told him, sounds interesting. Would love to have a conversation with you about it once the kids are back in school. Right, I didn't want to do anything that was going to screw up the summer, and so we come back to Vegas from Del Mar, and the day we drive back's without a doubt the worst day of the year. Just because you're leaving Del Mar and you got the traffic on the way back, and it's just crappy day. And anyway, then a couple days later, the kids start school, right? It's quiet in the house. I take my dogs for a walk. I like to walk the dogs every morning.
Go to Starbucks, of course.
And not on the morning walk. There's like a park behind our house,
Okay.
and I go walking the dogs. And we had one of the dogs is old. He's 14 now, and it's still hot in Vegas. And so 20 minutes, and he wants to plop down under the tree. So I eventually get him home, and then it's like 8:30 in the morning. So what am I going to do? And Enrico had remembered that was the first day of school, so he called me that day. And then that's when we started talking about the IGT sports betting business, and ultimately, of course, it led to me signing up and joining the company October 1.
Was there a sports betting part of the business before you joined?
Yes, so it's hardware and software. So a system that allows you to operate your own sports book, and then the hardware, the betting kiosks and the like, to do it, the odds display board. So everything that an operator would need to run a sports book.
So the understanding of it is you guys have the sports book in the Resorts World.
So it's our hardware and software that they operate it.
They operate it themselves.
They operate it.
Okay.
Again, our hardware software for Resorts World. Boyd Gaming in Nevada uses the IGT platform to do it.
Okay. Anyone else?
In a number of big tribes across the country.
Okay, outside of Nevada.
Outside Nevada. FanDuel uses it for their retail system across the country.
So you don't care how the business goes in Resorts World. You're just providing them a platform, as an example of Resorts World or any of them. You're just the systems behind it. They operate themselves. They manage the handle. They manage the book. Or do you set the lines for them as well?
Yeah, so we do care. Number one, because you want your customers to do well.
I didn't mean it as in that.
Number
I mean
two, we are on a revenue share on these deals as well. So we do have a vested interest in how they do. The more revenue for them, the more revenue.
Okay.
For IGT, we do have a group of bookmakers, trader in the sort of the modern vernacular, and they. Depending on the local regulation and depending on the deal with the customers, they can either provide advisory services, provide the lines, or actually do the bookmaking itself.
Are you happy with how Resorts World's going? How's it been?
I've been over there a couple of times. It's a beautiful property. In fact, I think I ran into you there one night. You were picking up some high-end food.
Oh, you're right. Go. Yes, you're correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was kind of random. I was walking through the property and ran into you there. Look, I'm actually really bullish on the long-term future of that property. I mean, it's still ramping up, obviously. Yeah. But I think
some
over
people
time
say it should have its own dedicated sports book, but it's not. It's more of like a restaurant that has a sports book operation within it. Is that fair?
I mean, there's the restaurant, but then there's a separate, more traditional type of sports book.
Okay.
Within it, and
I haven't spent much time
in
that area.
Yeah, no, it's very well done.
Okay.
It's very well done. I like it. I mean, there's a number of other sports.
Have you been over to the steakhouse? The new steakhouse there, Carver Steak?
I have not. Not.
Well, you should support the properties and new venues. I will take you to Carver Steak. It's our good friend Sean Christie's, and it's excellent. It's very good.
Even better.
We'll go.
Don't tell Oscar you're cheating on
it. No, it's not as good as Oscar's, but Sean was a guest on our podcast, and he did a good job there.
Have you been over to the new Chicky and Pete's at the Sahara?
No, I haven't. I haven't been over to Sahara at all.
I just went there.
To Chicky and Pete's?
Yeah, with Gary.
I heard it's very... Oh, you went
with
Gary.
Other podcast host. He's from Philly. We went there.
Well, I don't know if this is a...
It was good. Would you love it?
Oh, I think that place is great. Yeah, I'm a big fan.
I mean, I don't know if I can say this, but I wanted Chickies and Pete's downtown. They should have come downtown, and then they chose Sahara over us. I'm sort of bitter. I don't want to go there.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's not too late to have a conversation with
For a second,
Pete.
I don't know. Now I don't feel so special anymore. We wanted them to do a big thing down here. We had a big idea. I missed the first meeting, and I guess there wasn't a second one.
We're lost without you.
Huh?
We're lost without you.
No one executes around here without me. It's unbelievable.
Okay, so if you're providing the software, does Super Bowl and all these sports like March Madness play as big of a role now as it did when you were working at William Hill?
I mean, the dollars are smaller now. The magnitude of the decisions is smaller, but obviously it's still a fun, interesting, great time, and it's an important day for the customers. I mean, one of the things that was particularly fun this year, so one of our customers is the Oneida tribe, and their casino is located in Green Bay, like right across from the Green Bay airport. And, surprise, surprise, who does everybody bet on?
Yeah, of course.
Every week, in their casino, and they're big sponsors, by the way, of the Packers. There's even the Oneida Gate at Lambeau Field.
Oh wow! Fact, you were just there, weren't you? You were just at Lambeau.
I was. I went there a few weeks ago.
Your Twitter is very influential. Joe Asher on Twitter is very active, and you can
at Joe Asher.
Is it at Joe?
It's at Joe Asher. Yeah, I've gotten more into Twitter over the last year. Probably spend too much time on it, but I do get most of my news, is stuff that I find on Twitter. But anyway, I went down onto the field at Lambeau. But it was a lot of fun to to sort of work with the management team there and kind of explain the business to them and tell them, look, everybody's going to bet the Packers. It does, if they're a 7-point favorite. First of all, everybody knows they're a 7-point favorite, so it's not like you want to put up 10 and make your customers mad because you're, moving the line on them. Just let the people bet, and over time, if you'll do just fine. There'll be times when the Packers will win but won't cover. Sometimes they'll even lose a game, i.e., like they did to the Niners when.
Well, when Aaron Rodgers chokes under pressure.
Oh, that was a terrible performance. I mean, I thought that was a horrible performance.
I agree.
That night,
the whole team generally, not just him.
Yeah, but he gets the credit when things are good.
That's
so you got to take the bad when they lose. But when you're looking at the sports betting business, you just can't worry about those one-day fluctuations, right? If the Packers win and cover, pay the people with a smile, and they'll come back in the future. In the early days of sports betting in Mississippi, we had a customer who said to me, he said, listen, what are we going to do about the Saints? He said, everybody comes to my casino. They love the Saints. They're going to bet the Saints every week. And this is when the Saints were really good. And he says, if the Saints win, we're going to lose. And so what are we going to do? I said, well, we're going to root for the other team. Right.
But I mean, from what I gather, that happened here with the Golden Knights in the first few years.
Same issue with the Golden Knights.
Yeah.
Probably smaller scale than it meant maybe to to the casino in Green Bay, but it absolutely happened. Look, I happen to think one of the things that made the Golden Knights as popular as they got, as quickly as they got, is everybody was betting on them, and they were winning money. Right. And so, when people are giving you money, you tend to like them.
Yep.
Right? Makes the game more interesting.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. No doubt about it.
Easier to watch. But back to the Super Bowl, did you guys do well in it? Wasn't it the perfect score for bookmakers?
It was.
The favorite wins but doesn't cover, and it goes under?
Exactly. That's the perfect scenario.
The trifecta.
That's the perfect scenario for bookmakers
Why
on the
is
Super Bowl. Because people who like the favorite tend to lay the points. Because they'd rather get 11 to 10 or lay 11 to 10 than have to to put up 175 was the best price that I saw on the Rams on the money line. So most people will bet the favorite laying the points. But if you like the underdog, typically you bet the underdog on the money line. Right. So people were betting the Bengals, on the money line plus,
So you lose on the Bengals, you lose on the spread on the Rams. And you lose on the over. Most people bet the over, right? It makes no sense why, but most people do.
Did you?
They like to root for scoring. They like to root for scoring. So the best case scenario in this year's Super Bowl was Rams by 1, 2, or 3.
Yeah.
And because of a variety of things, including the muffed extra point.
Right.
And look, it's amazing to me. I mean, the Rams were such the better team when you think that OBJ, when he got hurt early, that totally changed that dynamic.
Killed the game. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Because then you knew Stafford was going to be throwing the cup. And it shows you how good Cup is that, everybody on the planet knew that, Stafford was going to throw to him, but he still is catching
Especially
touchdowns.
that last drive.
Yeah. I mean, what a shocker.
I had a good Super Bowl. I bet on heads on the coin toss because William Hill did have even money on the coin toss, which I was grateful for. I like that. And I liked the Rams from about a month ago. I bet the Rams from a few months ago. But I did hedge a little bit in the Super Bowl, which I shouldn't have. But what can I tell you? It was good because it put me in a position where I didn't need to worry about the spread because I was already on the Rams from prior to around the beginning of the playoffs.
Well, that's pretty good. It's a good futures bet. What'd you get? What price did you get?
8.5. Not bad.
That's really good.
Not bad, yeah. But I didn't hedge at all in the first few playoff games. Even when they went to Tampa, I didn't hedge. And I knew they were going to beat actually, I knew. I liked them to beat the 49ers. But then for some reason, I got talked out of it in the Super Bowl. I should have just let it ride because I liked them. But once OBJ went down, you're right, it was a little concerning. But you had a controversial take on Twitter the other day. You said you don't like these guys at the parade drinking and sort of acting a fool.
Yeah, the excessive drinking. Look, I like a good time as much as the next guy, but drinking out of bottles and being sloppy drunk and running around with your shirts off. I mean, I just don't think that's a good example to be to be setting for kids, right? Because kids are watching the Super Bowl parade and just like grow up. Don't act don't act like so ridiculous.
I have a slightly different take. I didn't want to get into an argument with you on Twitter, so I saved it for the podcast.
You like the debauchery?
I don't like the debauchery, but I forgive them because I think they have tremendous pressure. They are young guys. You forget that they are kids themselves. Many of them are in their 20s and early 30s, and they live under tremendous pressure. They've just reached the pinnacle of their life. They will never reach a higher point in their entire careers or lives, for that matter. Have some fun. Yeah, the whole world has to watch it. And it's annoying. He shouldn't have turned his back on the girl that fell over. That wasn't good. But he was drunk.
Oh my gosh.
But you can do all that. You can have that big party in private. You can come, rent out Oscar's Steakhouse.
How do you do that with the parade? The whole world's watching.
But you don't have, exactly. That's my point. You don't do it during the parade.
Oh, you're saying be professional during the parade and then go nuts in private. Okay.
If you want to go nuts in private. And it's not even I'm not even saying being professional in the parade. I'm saying just don't be completely over the top, debaucherous and out of control, so that you're making you're just making a fool of yourself. And you brought up Stafford walking away from the woman who fell, just the whole thing. I have a great time in private, but on the public stage. Well, by the way, the parade is being paid for by public taxpayers. Just so
I get it.
I'm watching the video right now. I appreciate what you're saying.
I think there's a level of these are young guys at the pinnacle of their at the highest moment they're ever going to have. I guess it's annoying that today with social media, if she fell and there wasn't social media, no one would ever know she fell or that he turned his back on her. But I sympathize with him. But anyway, okay. Well, let's get back to IGT.
Wait, Matt Stafford thought it was in a different place than it was.
What did he do?
He
was drunk.
He was completely wasted.
Yeah, he was drunk. Anyway.
Okay, so what are you looking forward to in your new position
within IGT? What's going on at IGT, Joe?
Well, so funny enough, today. The office sort of like officially reopened, the Las Vegas office, because it's been closed for COVID for 2 years. And so people came into the office and, they had free Pink Box donuts.
How'd you get that?
I think, they bought the donuts. free to me. Okay. I got a box of them down in the car. Can I tell you a quick little aside? Our daughter was in a soccer tournament over the weekend. And after the game, the other team had Pink Box donuts.
Huh.
Okay, as it was like somebody's birthday or something, so they had the Pink Box donuts. My 8-year-old son, kind of wanders off, and next thing I know, I see him with a big donut. And I said, "How'd you get the donut?" And he had kind of whispered to a kid of a brother on the other team, say, "Hey, can you give me a donut? Give me a donut."
And they got him one?
And it was a Pink Box donut. Yeah, he was walking around with a Pink Box donut. Don't ask, don't get.
That's right. I took my son to Bagel Mania on Sunday. We had Pink Box donuts. That's what you do.
Bagel Mania.
But anyway.
That's another great spot. I mean, we're giving Crandall all these
plugs?
Plugs, yeah.
Forgot about that. You're right. Maybe we have to cut that out. I'm only joking. Okay, so what are you doing at IGT now? What's the plan?
Yeah, so look, the plan is to continue to grow the business. Obviously, take care of our, the customers that we have and help them grow their business. And I do feel like, the experience I've had over the years sort of helps. It helps. Like I gave the example of the Tribe and, explaining, don't worry about the individual games on the Packers and it's a decent sized business. And it's about 175 people working in the business. Most of them are software developers, actually.
It's a lot of people
in Serbia. I'm going over to Belgrade to meet the people in person. Never been to Serbia before. So just looking to expand the business, help our customers grow revenues in their businesses as well as get new ones. And there are some really good customers, like I mentioned earlier. And as they grow, we grow. I happen to think that sports betting is going to continue to spread across the U.S. I mean, I think this was the first year that a majority of people live in a state where they can legally bet in sports betting.
That's right. How many states have legalized it?
Yeah, it's around 30 that have legalized it now, and some aren't, maybe not active, but it's around that. And but there's still big states to come, right? California, Texas. Florida was legal for like 2 weeks, and then it got shut down by a court order. So it's going to continue to grow. I actually happen to think that one day sports betting is going to be legal in all 50 states. Right? I don't think a single state is off.
I'll take
limits.
you that bet.
Well, but I'm not giving you a date. So
you're saying in perpetuity.
Yeah.
Open-ended.
Open-ended.
You think Utah and Hawaii cave on gambling because they haven't done it yet?
On sports betting over time, but I'm not going to give you a date. So I'm taking a long time.
Here goes the bookmaker making a bet he can't lose.
But I mean, people like to bet. I mean, that's the thing about it. People like to bet on sports. Look, I never imagined that that we'd see whether it's Caesars or FanDuel or DraftKings, official sports betting partner of the NFL, right? I mean, the NFL was like, sports betting is going to be the end of the world to our business. Yeah. And now these. I get an email from somebody at Caesars, and it's got the NFL logo in it, right? A proud partner of the NFL. And just like, I mean, who would have thunk that there would be a football team in Las Vegas, right? Yeah. There's maybe like 20 years ago when Las Vegas couldn't even advertise during the Super Bowl.
Right.
Like,
wow.
And
now we had the Pro Bowl, we have the draft coming, and we have the Super Bowl.
And we have the Super Bowl coming. It wasn't like advertised sports betting. It was just like, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, and they rejected that ad. Yeah. So to go from that to this beautiful stadium right behind Mandalay Bay is just, it's amazing.
Well, and give great credit to our neighbor. They built a sports-themed hotel, frankly. It's it's an attraction. It's something people want to go see, a giant sports book or a pool with a giant screen. It's maybe not for everyone, but it's an attraction that people want to see.
Oh, yeah, and they've used sports to really promote the property.
Yeah. You think downtown Las Vegas could do more in the sports sphere? Obviously, we don't have the stadiums, or whether it's Golden Knights or Raiders, they're all up by the Strip. You think there's anything downtown could do to be more compelling as a sports offering?
Well, I just think that the more sports events that happen in Las Vegas, the better it is for everybody, whether downtown or on the Strip, right? I mean, your room rates are going to be through the roof on Super Bowl weekend, right? I mean, Vegas is already a great place to watch the Super Bowl, let alone when the game is actually here.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see, the last 2 years, the Super Bowl has been won by the home team, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Before.
Yeah.
Never happened.
It ain't going to happen in 24.
Well, you know what?
What?
Somebody told me they ought to avoid that happening again, they should just make Dallas the permanent home of the Super Bowl.
I could say the same thing for Las Vegas.
Where is your spirit and pride?
Come on. They're a playoff team.
Well, yeah. Okay, I want to be positive. You're right. And this is a record, so I'm going to
tell Mark that you're doubting him.
No, that's not nice. That's not nice. He'll be at the next dinner series, so we can talk about it then.
Yeah, well, so, he's got something to go to now. I think we're next year. It's coming up in New Orleans. Arizona's next year, and, we'll see what happens with the Cardinals. I mean, they folded like a house of cards late in the season. That was, bad.
Yeah.
But then, who knows where the Raiders will be.
Yeah. I don't want to be controversial, but a new quarterback, and I think they could be pretty good.
Really? You're a negative on Carr?
No, I like Carr. I just don't think they'll ever win a Super Bowl with him.
Oh, I think Carr's a good quarterback.
I didn't say he's not a good quarterback. I just don't think they'll ever win a Super Bowl with him. That's just a matter of opinions here. No, they won't win a Super Bowl with Carr. But that's okay. He's a good quarterback and a very nice guy.
Who's a better quarterback, Trent Dilfer or Derek Carr?
When was Trent Dilfer playing?
He led the Baltimore Ravens to the Super Bowl.
What year was that?
Super Bowl victory.
Football didn't start in my life till 2008. I had no idea what was going on before then.
Okay, well, how about Nick Foles?
He played one game.
Well, he played more than one game, but again, who would you rather have, Derek Carr or Nick Foles?
Was he the starting?
He was he was Wentz's backup.
Yeah,
and
he was
then
the
Wentz
backup. But how many
hurt.
games did he play?
He played throughout the playoff. No, he played most of the season.
Did he really?
Yeah.
That was
Or
only a
certainly
few-
the postseason. Certainly played the postseason.
What about March Madness? Are you excited for that? What do you think's going to happen? Who's going to win? Who should we bet on?
Yeah, well, so a couple thoughts around March Madness. Number one, it was March Madness getting canceled 2 years ago that really kind of...
That's when we knew it
A
was
little
serious.
scary.
Yeah.
A little trauma.
it was that and the NBA, canceling the game that really kind of made...
Mid-game. They all walked off the court,
They all
remember?
walked off the court, right? And that kind of...
It was the Mavericks and
was
the
when
Jazz.
it was real, right? That's when it was like, whoa, what's this all about, So it'll be nice to kind of have a real March Madness in Vegas. I mean, Vegas is the best place to be for March Madness, right? I mean,
I agree.
no comparison. When I lived in New York, I would love to come out here for the opening weekend. It's the opening weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. If Sunday, people start to go home on Sunday, but those first few days, you just can't beat it, right? Because it's one after another, after another,
Yep.
after another.
And the weather's good.
The weather's great. The
Everyone's
weather's
here.
great. You're here. You're by the pool.
2 years ago was like the beginning of the end. Last year was sort of the beginning of the beginning because we had a great bump, and then of course COVID returned later on in the year. But it was when we sort of turned the corner last year and saw the great increase in business, which was much needed at that point. Desperately needed. So yeah, it was you're right, it was that. But this year we're going all out for it just here at the plaza, and we're seeing great pickup already for it. I think it's going to be a big deal.
Yeah, now I can come down as a customer.
Which team did you say to bet on?
Yeah,
I don't think he gave you a specific tip.
I didn't give you. I didn't give you. I don't.
Are you allowed to? I mean, you don't know.
Yeah, sure. I don't get into following college basketball until kind of right before the tournament. I really kind of get into it. Look, I'm a couple things. Obviously, Coach K with his, swan song in college basketball is interesting. Obviously, the big fight last weekend with Michigan and Wisconsin was, kind of topical. To
Are
say
you
the least. I don't know.
Are you a fan of abolishing the handshake at the end of the game?
No.
Good.
No.
Thankfully, we're on the same page there. Jeez.
I like sportsmanship. Sportsmanship.
Let me ask you a question, Joe. What is the psychology behind the sports bettor? People ask me that a lot about slots. What's the psychology? Why do people sports bet? Is it just so you have a bit of extra entertainment on the game? Is it addiction? Is it to be right?
It's to be right. It's to validate your opinion. It's to back your opinion and to be right.
And then you think you're smart because you picked a winner that game or that moment.
You get the validation of being right.
Okay.
Right. You get to figure out the puzzle. Right. Similar to horse racing, by the way. It's that validation of solving the riddle.
Yep.
Right. And solving the crossword puzzle and being right. So I think that's it. It clearly makes the game a lot more interesting.
And by the way,
right?
there's probably many things. I mean, what's the overriding driving thing? There's probably many factors why people sports it. There is addiction. There is of course the validation.
This is gambling. Look, this is gambling, right? People like to gamble.
Right.
And look, the way some people look at it is, look, I can go to a movie and, after 2 hours, I'll be out $15. Might have liked the movie, might not have liked the movie, but I'm out $15.
Right.
I can bet on the game, and at the end of the 2 hours, I might have doubled my money, or I just might have lost my bet.
Yeah.
But I'm getting the enjoyment from watching the game. And now you're seeing more people bet during the game, right? In-play betting and people betting on, typically they still bet on the outcome of the game or a subset of the game, but you can bet throughout the game, which is kind of interesting, right? I mean, the total might move. Like if you're betting a hockey game and the total was 5.5, and there's some scoring early, now the total is 7.5, right? And so people will bet whether there's going to be 7.5 goals scored and that sort of thing. So, I mean, I think there's a variety of reasons for people to bet, but
Right.
Validation of your opinion is one thing. Something to talk about with your friends is another. And just have a rooting interest in the game, or more of a rooting interest,
Right.
is a driver for it.
You are our second guest to have a second episode.
Who was the first?
Vital Vegas.
Okay, well, I'm in good company.
You're in good company. You're our second guest to have a second episode, and thank you very much for sharing so much insight.
Yeah, thank you. It's so interesting. You're a fountain of knowledge.
Well, thank you guys. I look forward to the third episode.
Yeah. Well, you have to change career again.
Okay.
You can stay up to date with Joe Asher at Joe Asher on Twitter. We'll be back again soon, but in the meantime, please rate, review, and subscribe. Tell your friends about On the Corner of Main Street, and of course, follow us on social. On Twitter and Instagram, it's at Plaza Pod, and on Facebook, find us at Plaza Podcast. Or go right to the top and tweet Jonathan at Jonathan Jossel. We'll see you next time from right here on the corner of Main Street.